Hey, what's up guys, it's Jess. Welcome back to my channel, and for once, Seattle came through with the sunny weather and great lighting, so thank you, Seattle. Today, someone sent in another submission asking me to review their personal statement, and this one is to the University of Washington, so I am super excited to read it. This is the essay prompt. Tell a story from your life, describing an experience that either demonstrates your character or helped shape it. The maximum length is 650 words. And this person ended on 6/22. My mom helped me put on the black mask, the light and flexible black suit, and matte black sneakers for costume day at Little Angels Kindergarten in Mumbai. Donned in full costume for Krish, my hero, I felt goosebumps prickle up and down my arms as I stood in a heroic pose after leaping over the sofa from the teapot table. Krish, or Krishna, a boy living in the mountains of Manali, was different from others due to his inherited superpowers. Due to Krish's unhearing altruism, people tend to take advantage of his powers, which made his grandmother overprotective. It wasn't long until his charisma and caring nature made a tourist fall in love with him. She wanted him to come with her to Singapore. His grandmother, however, wanted him to remain with his family. I had to face the same situation in 8th grade when my dad told my family that he was assigned to the US because of his work. Like Krish, I decided to leave my home in India. However, unlike Krish, I decided to leave in order to stay with my family. Worried about the culture shock, I started watching a lot of Marvel movies. The grueling and uncomfortable 18-hour flight was made easier as I watched film after film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Even though I glanced out of the window every now and then to witness the vast Pacific Ocean, my focus was rarely diverted from Steve Rogers, the moral compass of the Avengers. Listening without the subtitles was tough at the beginning, but I had to do something to kill time for the rest of my journey. I got the hang of it after a few hours and a few million rewinds. However, while I thought I'd mastered the art of learning the American accent, my dreams were crushed on the first day of school. As the teacher took attendance, everyone before me replied, "Here." When my name was called, I automatically repeated, "Here." People immediately began to shoot me weird looks, which indicated that something was not normal about the way I spoke certain words. Unfortunately, I knew that dealing with my peers' ridicule for the rest of the year was not a solution, so I went back to my trusty MCU movies and tried enunciating the lines of the characters as close to the US accent as possible. Hearing and repeating American phrases such as "use your words, buddy," and "alright, skedaddle there, young buck," was fascinating. After days and days of practice, the American accent was my superpower in my new world, the superpower of invisibility. I was able to blend in like an average high schooler, however, I still retained my secret identity, my rich Indian heritage and culture, which my American peers didn't know about at all. Krishna was at a circus in Singapore when his destiny called. A deadly fire at the circus forced him to make the most important decision of his life. He saw a burnt mask of a circus clown, tempted to put it on and save people, but he also remembered his grandmother's fears. He could either stay in his comfort zone or save the people from dying in the fire. His mind went in two different directions, but he was running out of time. He made a decision to put on the mask and jumped into the flames. He became Krish. The comfort zone is a tricky place to be. I'm trying to get out of it myself by applying to out-of-state universities, studying in my dream university, and becoming an investment banker to help people financially will make me the version of a superhero that I've always dreamed to be. Okay, I actually really love this essay. Sure, there's a few things that I will talk about in particular when we go really into the details, but overall, I thought it was a super unique story. I am not an international student, and I've never really had to grow up dealing with, a language barrier or people looking at me weird because I spoke differently, at least not to the extent that this person probably felt coming to America. Some people are like, "Oh, you have a Chicago accent," but I mean, that's fine. Speaking of which, let me know if y'all think I have a Chicago accent. I'll say 4 words. Ready? Chicago, boxing, soccer, and college. Anyway, this was a very interesting approach to the prompt because the prompt says, "Tell a story from your life," but the way this writer tackled that was sort of tying in multiple stories into one essay. With that in mind, it may be difficult for people to grasp what the main idea of the story was since there was so much going on. but it really wasn't that much to keep track of personally. Like, I thought it was fine, everything flowed really well, so I don't think that that is that big of a deal. I absolutely love the stories that they mentioned, all the details they put in, how they explained they incorporated themselves into American culture first by watching the Marvel movies. I can see how all of these experiences have impacted this person. However, what I'm struggling a little bit to find is how they've impacted this person's character. It's so hard to say. From what I got from a few of these paragraphs, it just felt like this person was hiding a part of their identity. They definitely made it sound more positive in the essay, but also it's like they didn't embrace that culture that they had, because when they went into America, they had, you know, a negative experience with people looking at them weird, and then they didn't take that and was like, no, I'm gonna embrace that I'm Indian and I'm going to make the most out of it here, and I can, you know, show other people how cool this culture is. Rather than doing that, they practiced an American accent, and that was their superpower, to kind of blend in with everyone else. I don't know, maybe that's just like a personal bias against that part of the story, where I wish they would have embraced their culture and their identity more rather than try and fit in with everyone else in school. But that's not what happened. They spoke about what did happen, which is always important, to tell the truth in your statements because it comes off more authentically. So going back to the prompt, I wish I had a better idea of how this superpower helped him, other than just to blend in with everyone else. Blending in with the crowd, especially leaving your old identity behind because it doesn't fit in with the crowd, doesn't necessarily give off a positive connotation. So I really wish I was able to get more out of that. So that was the big overview. Now I'm gonna go ahead and look into the specific sentences for details. Boom. That is a great first sentence because they have so much detail. In order to save a little bit on wording, you could delete some of the black adjectives that they mentioned. Since everything in the outfit is black, you can just mention it one time and just, you know, kind of say that that's for each part, like the mask, the suit, and matte black, like matte sneakers, they're all black, rather than repeating black, black, black all over again. Just because I'm gonna be looking at this from a perspective of, okay, what can we take out in order to put more detail, more words into what actually matters? Anyways, I love how they mentioned costume day, the specific name of the kindergarten, and where it was located. That was already so much detail within, you know, the first sentence, which I love. I don't think there needs to be much changing with that. What I was nervous about reading the second sentence was that I had no idea who the hero was, but then I'm very glad that they got into it immediately after that sentence, so that was a really great placement, rather than not including it at all, which would have not been a good idea. In this sentence, it says, I felt goosebumps prickle up and down my arms as I stood in heroic pose after leaping over the sofa from the teapot table. I love imagining this scene in my head where this little kindergartner is jumping from the sofa to the teapot table and they're standing in a heroic pose because they're dressed as their favorite person. Maybe expand more in what a heroic pose looks like. Obviously, like I had the image that it looks like with your fists on your hips and you're posing like this and your back was straight and you're smiling broadly. But maybe a heroic pose looks different for other people, so maybe say specifically what the heroic pose looked like to you. I think the body of the essay is great. I don't have much input there, so we're gonna go ahead and skip to the conclusion. The only thing I have to recommend here is specifically write the University of Washington somewhere in here if that is the school you're applying for. You don't want to say studying my dream university and have to have them imply that it means UW. Especially if it isn't UW, you don't want them to think, oh, we're just a second option to them, then why would we accept them? So it's very important that you write studying at my dream university, the University of Washington, and etc. I didn't have much feedback for this essay because overall I really liked it. They had all of the details down, which is usually mostly what I critique on in essays. So overall, a great job. I think you have a sure shot of getting into the UW. First prompt says, our families and communities often define us. In our individual worlds, community might refer to your cultural group, extended family, religious group, etc. Describe the world you come from and how you, as a product of it, might add to the diversity of the UW. The University of Washington loves diversity. Considering that this writer is from India and then moved to the United States with their family, I think is a great background to have in terms of the diversity aspect that UW is looking for. Christians in India consist of 2.3% of the population. Even so, my family has regularly attended church since I was very young. Some aspects of the Mar Thoma Church in India were heavily similar to churches in America. Both churches held Sunday school every Sunday, for example, and also provided vacation Bible school every year. In India, however, we also celebrated culture, that for some reason that didn't look like a real word to me. Celebrated culturally significant festivals that didn't necessarily have direct ties to Christianity. In our home state of Kerala, Onam was celebrated in August because during this time the farmers harvested their first crops of the year. All of the people at church celebrated Onam by eating 25 different dishes on a banana leaf, in addition to playing games such as tug of war, wrestling, and archery. The Mar Thoma Church in India has shaped me to who I am today. Many years of listening to Akin's sermons made me understand the power of God and the beauty of His world. At my church, I learned to read and interpret the Bible as early as 7 years old. I also learned how to sing hymns on various occasions at church. In my eyes, a church was not only a place of worship, but a family. It made me realize what a community could be. I wish to create a similar community at UW. Through my research, I have found that there are Indian clubs at the campus, such as the Indian Student Association. In addition to Christian clubs, in addition to Christian clubs such as Gospel Christian Fellowship. However, there is no club where Christian Indians like me can practice their faith like they did back home. I want to be a bridge between these two aspects of my culture at U of W. That is a really interesting take on this prompt. I thought this person was going to talk more about their experience living in India and then shifting to America in terms of, that is already just enough in terms of diversity, but they took it a step further and related it to their religion and how important the religion is to them. And so I thought that was a really, really cool take on the prompt. I like how they start off by saying that Christianity in India is generally pretty small, but they were still introduced to it. In the last sentence, it says both churches held Sunday school every Sunday, for example. It was a little wordy there, and I think there's a bunch of things that can be removed. You don't have to say every Sunday because we're assuming that Sunday school is every Sunday. At least I'm assuming that. You also don't have to include for example. You already are saying it, so you don't need for example. Just say both churches held Sunday school and also provided vacation Bible school every year. Or you can say both churches held Sunday school every Sunday and provided vacation Bible school every year. The every Sunday might be important if no one knows that Sunday school is every Sunday, but definitely take out the for example. In the paragraph, the Mar Thoma Church in India has shaped me to who I am today. For some reason, everyone includes this sentence in their essays, like this shaped me into who I am today. And I'm so over it personally. I want you to tell me how it has specifically shaped you, and then I'll allow it. This person definitely followed up with a lot of details that explained who they are today. However, maybe just add a little more detail into that sentence rather than just say shaped me to who I am today, has shaped me to becoming a blank person with a blank something. I don't know, it just needs a lot more detail within that sentence, and then you can get into the specifics as well. I don't know if that's just a personal dislike towards that statement. It's just because I've seen it all the time. Everyone says it in every single essay they've ever written in their entire life. So I would say if you want to be unique, definitely cut that out and maybe exchange some different words in there. For UW, I feel like you can just spell it as UW. They say, I want to be a bridge between these two aspects of my culture at U of W. Maybe state specifically that you want to create your own RSO called blank so that blank. I think that would be really cool, rather than just give that generalization that you're gonna build a bridge. Say specifically what you plan to do. I want to connect these two aspects of my culture at UW by forming my own RSO called this, where students can this and we can this together, and then maybe explain how that will benefit UW and benefit the diversity at UW, etc. And then that can be your conclusion. But overall, that was a really interesting take on the prompt. I loved it. Lastly was the additional information prompt, which is optional. This is where students can include the info that they didn't get to address earlier if it had some particular significance. Personal hardships, getting your education, activities being limited because of work or family, unusual limitations or circumstances, stuff like that. Usually they're generally pretty negative, but this person just made it so It's so innocent almost, but innocent in such a good way. Stereotypically, with additional information sections, many people write about negative experiences they have, and I love how this person was just like, nope. I love this approach on the prompt. It was totally unexpected, and I love how this person just wrote that they wanted a job really badly when they were 14, and then they wanted it at Disney World, and Disney World didn't give it to them, so now they work at Domino's, and they make pizzas, and they have a debit card. Happy ending. Wrapping up the entirety of this application, I loved it. I love how all of their responses, you know, from the main one, the short answer, the additional information, they all sort of connect with this person's experience living in India and moving to America. All of the approaches on the questions were very unique. I really appreciate all of the details this writer included throughout each portion, you know, the main essay, the short answer, all of that. Honestly, I do not have much to critique at all. Everything I listed was just, you know, a slight few remarks that weren't even, you know, that significant. I thought this was awesome. I definitely think this person will make it into the UW, and if you commit to the school, I will see you there for my last year, senior year. We can be friends. That was the end of the video. If you all have any personal statements or essays you would like me to read, I am an English tutor and I would love to review them on my YouTube channel, so go ahead and send me them at this email right here, and I will see you all next time. Bye!